time now. grs@rte.ie.
It's actually, I'm home from work 20 past 6, so I'm after just jumping in the shower.
Okay, so it's tea time in Australia.
I'm just about to go for my dinner, Gerry, but you're more important, you know.
Ah, yes. Thank you for that. This is a man who's been listening online, not only in Brisbane, but also in the outback. And you're considering the imponderable, many would think here, actually coming back to Ireland with the torrential rain, the dark mornings. I drove through the dark this morning. When I got out of the car, I was nearly whipped away with the winds, though I suppose you get them in Australia as well. But it's kind of fairly miserable here at the moment. So why are you coming back?
I actually miss Ireland, Gerry, but I was thinking when you were going through the weather there, I was listening to Tommy Tiernan one day, and he was saying if you could dock Ireland in Sydney Harbour to be paradise. But
he's right.
At the moment, today I was out in the power station working, Gerry, and it was 37 degrees.
37 degrees.
37 degrees, so I wouldn't be out all the time, but you'd be in and out sort of doing some work. So
of course, it's your summer down there, isn't it?
It's summer. The wet season's just about to start here now, but I'm actually based in Brisbane, and I'm fly in, fly out working in Broome and up in the West Kimberleys in Western Australia, so it's pretty remote places and parts of it, you know.
Yeah, Broome is kind of, I was about to say, Broome is pretty much the outback, isn't it?
It's actually a holiday destination here in Western Australia. It's pretty one of the top beaches in the world here, Cable Beach. But, of course, looking at a power station all day isn't quite the same thing, you know.
And what are you doing in the power station, Colin? What's your job?
Basically, the company I work for, we're building 5 new power stations in regional Western Australia, and I'm an electrical engineer doing commissioning up here. So it's pretty significant experience in terms of the CV, you know. So it's really good. It's really enjoyable, you know. So. And
is there a woman in your life?
I'm seeing a girl at the moment, yeah. She's actually travelling the East Coast at the moment, so I'll try and catch up with her whenever I can.
Is she an Aussie?
She's actually from Dublin, from Goatstown.
So you're keeping it in the family, good lad.
Yeah.
From Goatstown.
Goatstown, yeah.
And, you know, there's a lot of people listening this morning, some of them as we look further south, particularly from Laois downwards, who are going through the snow, black ice, driving rain, high winds, listening to you describing 37 degrees at that beautiful beach, the fantastic work opportunities that you have, your girlfriend off, travelling around, the world is our oyster. And they're saying, why the name of God would you be coming back here for? But you miss Ireland, like the Paddies. As soon as we leave this place, suddenly it turns into paradise.
Yeah, it's funny the things you miss when you're away. Like, the weather is obviously a small part of it, but I tend to block out the shit weather in Ireland, you know, as part of the decision. Otherwise, you'd never go home.
Well, also, rising inflation, hugely expensive cost of living. Mind you, you know, it's a very, very successful country compared to what it used to be. Very beautiful whenever the sun shines, which is rarely, as you know. But you still want to come back, don't you?
Yeah, I'll obviously be looking to buy a house when I go home and stuff. So I'm hoping.
And where would you be looking to buy a house?
It depends where I'd base myself for work. I'm actually from Galway myself, East Galway, but I'd love to live in Galway City. I lived in Dublin for a number of years, but obviously the Dublin property market is kind of out of my price range. So
the Galway property market's got pretty hot recently.
Yeah. My brother's living in Galway now. He's saying it's kind of creeping up, nearly as bad as Dublin, but not quite getting there. But overall, like, if you kept looking at the negative things, you'd never go home. But I just sort of miss Ireland, and I've been away 5 years. And I'm just wondering, from the email, I was kind of wondering if any of your listeners sort of moved home recently from wherever.
We've had this conversation a few times. As a matter of fact, if there are any of those people that we've talked to before, or any new ones who have moved back, quite a few people moved back from the States recently. And they all have, I would imagine, they would have a pretty good story to tell you, because I think there's a lot of similarities between the two moves. And there's lots of them out there, Colin. There's lots of the diaspora have come back. Deborah, good morning to you.
Hello, how are you?
Very good. Say hello to Cathal.
Hello, Cathal, how are you?
Deborah, how are you doing?
Okay, tell us, when did you come back?
We're back since May 2003.
And how did it work out for you?
Oh, it's actually been really, really great. The whole thing, the reason we came home was because of family, and we realised very, very quickly. My daughter, who was 7 months at the time, ended up in hospital after 2 weeks, and my other daughter, my mum, was able to just mind straight away, and it's just amazing. After 3 weeks, we realised this is the reason we've come home, and that was it. And then you're always scared about the getting that phone call, and lots of people we knew, getting that phone call to say something had happened, and you'd have to rush home. And
all right, well, that's something I didn't think of. Now, I've been trying to put him off by, telling him about the weather, the cost of living, inflation, the price of property, all of those things. How do they affect you?
But you just get used to it. I think from our point of view, I think the money as well, the wages are a little bit better here. So from our point of view, you just get used to it. We bought a house after 10 months. We're still living in it, and we have a car. We're happy enough, you know what I mean? It's not, money's not an object, but it's not we're not struggling by any means. So,
and were you able to walk back into the kind of jobs that you'd had in Australia?
Well, more or less. Like, I set up my own business after a couple of months, and then my husband, he went back into... Well, he got a job more or less straight away. Okay, after about a week, I'd say. And
what part of Australia were you living in?
We're living in Sydney.
You were living in Sydney, so yeah, nice part of the world.
Yeah.
Lovely weather this time of the year to be absolutely gorgeous there.
Yeah. We've just got friends have arrived home as well, and you do realise, over there you start to stay in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You might go out on Friday. You're in bed early. It's exactly the same. Do you know what I mean? It becomes all a monotony over there just as much as it becomes here. Okay, maybe the weather's a little bit better.
Okay, right. Well, that's certainly a thumbs up from Deborah Cahill, I think. Have you anything else you want to ask her?
Well, what I was wondering myself was, in terms of the cultural differences and the change in Irish people, because I noticed having been home sort of every once or maybe once every 2 years. I was home last Christmas, 12 months now.
We've got nastier.
And I just think Irish people have got a little bit self-centred, but that could be just sort of my incorrect observation,
No, it's not. Deborah, have you noticed that we've become very selfish, very self-centred?
Very, it's all money orientated, and but I mean, I think at the end of the day, if you go back to your family and your friends, they're generally just the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
In saying that, I think the Irish are still the best crack in the world.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. No, you do come home. Honest to God, you won't. It's brilliant. It is brilliant. It's brilliant being home.
Okay, enjoy the rest of your walk. So, Cahill, we will keep in touch with you, right? And barring an atomic bomb or a leak from Sellafield, I would imagine that you're going to be joining us in the not too distant future. Any dates?
I'm kind of thinking I'll leave Australia maybe July, August, and spend maybe 2.5, 3 months travelling on the way home.
Yeah.
I was actually considering going to Ethiopia for 2-3 weeks, going through there.
Why would you do that?
I actually seen a TV show with Bob Geldof in Africa, going back 20 years after the famine and all that. It just struck me as a really interesting country to go and visit, and sort of might be on the list of places to go,
It is, and I've been there. It's interesting, tragic, fascinating, very compelling. They're very nice people, I have to say, but there's a huge amount of pain travelling through Ethiopia. Not only is it just very uncomfortable, but it's what you see. Well, it'll be a life-changing experience for you. I don't have to explain it, to be honest. I think you probably already anticipate what you'll get there, and that's a lot of tragedy. I mean, there's a lot of work has been done. It's been very successful, and their lives are better than they used to be. There's no doubt about that. Geldof would say that the place has gotten worse, I think, probably. I think that was his attitude in that documentary, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's just sort of, obviously the famine is gone, but it's much sort of, obviously corruption is there still, and all the rest. And
he feels very strongly that the worst elements of the West are present there now, and that was our biggest legacy to them. But,
Gerry, just going back to a different point, and just sort of came to mind there, I've been away quite a few years and done a lot of travelling, lived in London and the States, and I've met a lot of Irish people that would be sort of 10 years older than me, who were forced to leave Ireland in the 80s. And they actually, unlike me, had no choice about coming back. So I think it's fantastic that I can click my fingers in the morning and say, I'm going back to Ireland, whereas 20 years ago or 15 years ago, people actually didn't have a choice to go back.
Oh, no, it's a new world. And I'm particularly conscious listening to you talking. How old are you, Cahill?
I'm 31.
31?
Yeah.
Okay, listening to you talking and mindful of the men living by themselves and women, possibly in, different suburbs in London and Manchester and all the various towns where the Irish went to stay and work with little money, no contact with home anymore. Their lives behind them, they worked hard for not a lot, but it was more than was here. And they can't come back because they've nothing to come back to. So yours is an altogether different lot, and your opportunity is so fantastic and shining compared to what theirs was. And it's an entirely different world. And
so it's really hard to look at the negative aspects, really, It's just...
All right, well, keep in touch with us, right? And we'll try and give you as clear a picture of what's available here for you between now and July, okay?
Yeah, Gerry, it was very good to talk to you. I've been listening
Likewise.
to you my whole life, and I can't believe I'm talking to you live on the radio.
Well, it's a pleasure talking to you too, with a phone line that's clearer than anything you'd get in this country. All right. Good morning.
Thanks very much, Gerry.
We'll talk again soon. That's Cathal in Queensland, and he's coming back. It's tea time there. He's just come back from work, and he's jumped into the shower, and he's going out for his dinner a little later on during the summer, just before the wet season. I know if I was him, I'd be staying. But the Irish, of all the nationalities, I think the Irish are the most sentimental about home. I mean, I've travelled quite a large proportion of the globe. I've been very, very lucky and very, very privileged to be able to travel for work and for pleasure. And you meet the Irish everywhere, like the Australians. They're great travellers. And when they, the way their eyes mist over when they start talking about home, and it's not forced, it's very spontaneous, the kind of eulogies that they will sing and deliver to the hills and the dales and the valleys and the townlands of a country that is far, far from perfect, but when you're 1,000 miles away, it's heaven. Maeve, good morning to you.
Hiya.
How are you?
Fine.
Are you all right?
Yeah.
You don't sound it.
Oh, I'm okay, I'm okay.
Go on, cheer up there, go on. Now, you're looking for advice.
Yes. I've got a goat. We just got a goat there in the summer, and we got her into kids recently. Well, hopefully.
In other words, she had a baby goat.
No, she didn't yet, but we got her. We brought her up to see her boyfriend.
She's up the duff then?
She is.
Okay.
Hopefully. So we're expecting that she'll have a kid, and I don't know how long the gestation is for a goat, but I think it's about 5 months or something. And I'm just wondering, what's the story with feeding? We'd planned to feed the goat's milk to our baby. We've a 1-year-old, so he'll be about a year and 5 months when the kid is born. Now, is it okay to feed goat's milk to a baby if it's unpasteurised, unhomogenized? I know they used to do it in the old days, but what's the story with it now? Because I heard goat's milk is good for a baby, and he's a little bit asthmatic, so I want to take him off cow's milk.
Mm-hmm. Dairy products do tend to aggravate asthma in some people. You're correct in observing that. What's your own inclination, first of all, Maeve? What do you think the answer to that question is?
Well, I've a feeling it's probably better for him than cow's milk, because it does make him fairly mucousy.
The cow's milk does?
The cow's milk.
Yeah.
So, I'm giving him, he's on formula, or he's on soya milk at the minute, or rice milk.
But what do you think in terms of the pasteurisation? Why do you think they pasteurise milk?
Well, I assume it's for the germs, to get rid of bacteria and germs.
Tuberculosis and all sorts of stuff like that, yeah. So, what makes you think that the nanny goat's milk would be safer?
I've heard that goat's milk is better for them.
Well, I'd say it could be better for them. I don't doubt that, but I presume they're referring to pasteurised goat's milk.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, I don't know the answer to that, so I just thought...
Well, I can guarantee there's some smarty pants out there who does know the answer to it, as you well know yourself. And did you get the goat deliberately just for this?
Well, we got her to milk her, really, we did. And... we've never kept a goat before. And
do you live in the country?
We do, yeah.
So you've got the space for it?
We do, yeah. Yeah,
because they're quite a handful, the old goats. They'll eat anything. They'd eat your sofa,
I know, if she got the chance, she probably would,
Yeah, they're a bit mad.
Yeah.
But I like the idea.
Yeah, I like the idea as well, and that's kind of why we're doing it. So I don't know whether we'll just keep her for a pet or whether we'll milk her, but she's hopefully in kid, as you said, up the duff at the minute.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll get an answer to this now.
Okay.
I've a funny feeling that the answer may be no, but is there a way of rendering the milk?
And if it's not ideal to give it to him straight from the goat, could I boil it up to pasteurise it?
Yeah,
or,
what exactly?
What kind of process is involved?
Yes, I think it's a fairly sophisticated process now, to be honest. So we'll find out for you anyway, okay? Because it would be a shame to have bought this goat and to have it doing nothing except just be a goat.
She's a nice pet anyways. But...
It's turned out to be a good pet, is it? I wouldn't have thought they made great pets, do they?
They are. They're cute. Yeah, they've personality. Yeah, she's nice.
It's not dirty.
No, she's fine. She's fine. We keep her in her shed and then let her out in the day to feed on the grass. No,
And do you let her into the house?
No, she doesn't. She's not that much of a pet.
That's the child, not the goat, I presume.
Up on the hip, yeah.
Okay. All right. You stay tuned and we'll have an answer for you before 12, okay?
Gerry,
I'm quite sure of that. Jenny, good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, Gerry. How are you?
Good. You've memories going back to...
About 2, Gerry. And I can remember nearly every stage of my life since about 2.
Well, what can you remember? What kind of things?
One of my earliest memories, there's 2 years between myself and my sister, my younger sister, and the day she was baptised, I scalded myself. I stepped down off the kitchen table and there was a lovely pot of boiled ham on the ground and my foot stuck in the pot.
Oh, God. Well, you would remember that, wouldn't you?
I do, yeah. I don't remember the pain. I don't know, I think I went into shock or something like that, but I do remember being very, very quickly taken from the house by my aunt and a girl who used to mind us at the time. And I remember the taxi that I went to Temple Street in. I remember it was black, and I remember going down the Whitworth Road with my foot sticking out the window of the taxi to let air at the scald. Yeah. I remember being in Temple Street, I remember the drawings on the wall, and I remember the nuns who used to look after the children in there at the time. But my Aunt Anna used to come and see me on our lunch break, and I remember, I really, really do clearly remember throwing fruit at her when she was leaving, throwing apples and bananas or anything I could get my hand to, and throwing them at her when she was leaving. And they all remember that. They can all verify that I actually did that, you know, because it kind of, things came back to me down through the years, and I used to say to them, did I actually do that, or did I imagine I did it? Say, no, you used to. And singing songs that I couldn't possibly have known, you know what I mean, growing up as a teenager. It's like, God, how do I know that? And they'd say, oh, you remember that from a child, you know. I remember St. Patrick's Day. I remember Easters. I remember Christmases. I could nearly tell you what I got for Christmas when I was about 4. I can remember the Christmases, the Christmas more. I can remember waking up on Christmas mornings, a lot of them. Yeah. Well, I remember, I could nearly go through every stage of my life. I remember my first day at school. I was 4. I remember my teacher, she was a nun as well at the time, as clear. I can still see her in my head, as clear as anything. I remember the suitcase she had. I remember the smell in the school. You know, I could go through every major phase in my life, and I can remember really, really specific details. I mean, I get stick about it, you know what I mean? Because I remember these. People say to me, how the hell do you remember these things? But I just do, and I don't know why. I'd love to get an explanation for it. You know, I remember conversations that took place in my home. You know, things that would have happened down through the years, and I'd say, God, I remember that. I'd say, for God's sake, you couldn't remember that. You're only 5 or 6, but I do. I genuinely do, you know. I remember my first day at school because when we went down, we were in the Holy Faith Convent prep school, and they had boys and girls. I think in the prep school, it's all girls now in the main school. But I remember because we had bananas and sugar sandwiches or something like that. But when we went in, it was a holy day of obligation, and the school was closed. So our first day at school, we didn't go to school. You didn't go. Got to the school, all the trauma, and no school. I remember that very clearly. I can also remember being in Belgrove National School, and I was a pretty weird child. Very isolated. Why are you laughing? I was very isolated. I didn't have very many friends, and I was very clingy to my mother. And I remember standing at the break with my face through the railings, kind of wondering where she was, you know. I can remember that. I would have done, feeling very bad and very lonely and very alone. Yeah. I kind of remember, that's what I was saying to the girl that answered the phone to me that time. I remember very bad things and very good things. Yeah, well, you remember, I think you probably do tend to remember the more dramatic things. Yeah, but I'm just wondering why kind of very insignificant things are quite clear in my head. I'm wondering, you know, does everybody's memory hold those things, and is it just certain? Well, I think everything is there. It's just there's just certain things have a little flag attached to them for some reason, right? Yeah. You know, and you remember them because they were significant. And then there's other things
that accidentally get flags attached to them because maybe something else was happening at the same time that was significant. I don't know, actually, what the explanation to that is.
It's
Jenny?
great, though. I love it. I love the fact that I can remember things.
Well, it's cheap entertainment.
It is.
All right, good morning.
Good morning, Gerry. Thank you.
Marion, good morning to you.
Hello, Gerry. Good morning.
Very good. What do you remember?
I have very early memories as well, Gerry. And I'm glad there's other people like me, because I thought for a while nobody could remember things. But when I was 1 year old, I got the whooping cough. That's my earliest memory. And my parents for a few days I was quite sick, and I remember every night either my mum or my dad would give me their finger to hold to the cot. That was my earliest memory, and obviously I pulled through and have been healthy since then. But
what can you remember about the whooping cough?
I remember holidays and funny things that went on holidays, like my dad trying to amuse us at night and things like that. And Christmas morning, that used to be fun. I can remember that all the way up along as well.
Can you remember getting out of bed? Because Santa used to leave our toys down the end of the bed, and I can clearly remember we had 2 single beds upstairs in the room on the left-hand side in our house in Kincora Avenue. And I can remember creeping down in the dark, because we probably only were asleep for about an hour after Santa had come. And I remember getting down to the end of the bed and seeing that image of seeing, wow, look what I'm after getting, and the thrill of it. I can even remember back to being maybe about 2, and Santa had brought the toys in a sack. They were all in a big sack. I can remember that.
Yeah. I have a memory of my brother getting a bike. Now, I was only about 4 at the time, so he was sort of 3.5 years older, and I can remember him cycling around the house on it. It must have been bedlam-like, and I was there with my dolls, and I was really happy about that. But yeah, I've got a lot of memories, so it is possible to remember right back.
Oh, well, that's as I was saying, it's all in
like
there.
A happy memory or something that, like an event, or even maybe sickness. There are things that stick out in our mind or our memories.
Okay, thank you for reminding us. Good morning. Catherine, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Gerry. Love your show, first of all. Always listen to it, generally in bed.
Generally in bed?
Having a rest, yes.
Like the woman in the communion suit, and Brendan Bean's the communion suit. Remember the woman upstairs? She just stayed in bed. She just went to bed, I think, after her husband died and never got up again.
Oh. Well, you can't do that either.
No, you can't. No, You're absolutely
No,
right.
You got to get up and go.
Well, will you get up later on today?
Oh, I'm up now, actually.
Yeah?
I am actually up now.
Are you sort of sitting at the side of the bed?
No, I'm in my kitchen, and just after having tea and toast.
Good, excellent.
And it's a nice bright morning.
Yeah.
It's a good morning to be alive.
Great morning to be alive.
That's right, that's right. Nettles, quickly.
Nettles.
Yeah. My father, we had a back lane in the back of our house, and the nettles used to grow, right? I'm rather an elderly lady now, really. And we used to pick the heads off them.
So I can just clarify that. Are you over 35?
Oh, yes. Oh. Yeah. Over 65.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right.
And we used to pick the tops of the nettles. Now, you used to do it only in the spring when they were young, the nettles. Take the tops off them.
Yeah.
Right? Wash them and cook them. Just the same as you would a head of cabbage.
Cook the nettles?
Oh, cook the nettles.
Like boil them?
Boil them, rather, yeah. Boil them.
And would you put any seasoning or anything in with them?
No, a bit of salt, that's all.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of salt.
And you'd need a lot of nettles, though, wouldn't you?
You would, yes. But then there was a lot of nettles, you know, and it wasn't everybody in our house who would eat them anyway. My father would eat them and I'd eat them.
Yeah. And what do they taste like?
Well, it's like everything else. I mean, there's people can't let down cod liver oil, isn't there?
There is, yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, it's the same as the nettles. They're fairly strong. It's like talking there about the goat's milk, you know? That's strong as well.
And was it good for you?
Absolutely, full of iron, one of the best things, and they purify the blood and everything.
Yeah, and did it not make you go to the toilet?
No, not necessarily.
Good.
No, we've no problem in that area anyway.
Do you still have nettle soup, Catherine? Do you still take it?
Well, no, it wasn't soup. We eat the nettles. We didn't make soup out of them, you know.
Well, you ate them whole?
No, yeah, when they were boiled, you chop them up the same as you would a
like colcannon or something.
Yeah, or like cabbage.
Yeah.
Right? When you cook a head of cabbage, maybe you chop it up, right?
And did they sting you?
No, they didn't roasting, yeah.
Right.
No, you're after boiling them.
After boiling them, yeah.
Yeah. But you couldn't do that now because of all the pesticides everywhere.
That's
anyway,
right.
you couldn't, But no, I've never had I was just saying to your researcher there, I never had the nettle juice, but they sell it down in the health shops, don't they?
They do have it, yeah.
They do have it, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it. I haven't ever felt inclined, but just like as with our last caller in the goat's milk, now talking to you has renewed my interest in nettles, and I'll go out and get some today.
Well, where are you going to get them?
Nolan Supermarket.
Nettles, have they got them?
Oh, I think so, yeah. I think I've seen them there
Well,
before.
we used to, as I said, it was in the spring.
Commercial nettles now, commercial nettles.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, well, this was the real thing,
Yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway,
I'll be looking forward next week. Anyway, I listen to you every
you
day.
hear me with the goat soup and the nettles.
Oh, the goat's milk.
The goat's milk. Tell me this, what are you up to for the rest of the day now?
Oh, I'm going out and about.
Just messing?
Just messing, yeah.
Yeah.
Just taking it nice and easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might you meet a fella or something? When
No.
you're out
No.
Will you go down to the post office?
Oh, no.
That's where my mother used to go all the time. Maybe sometimes just stand there looking at him, Tom, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Now, you lived in New York for how long? 10, 11 years?
Nearly 11 years, yeah.
Were you there legally or illegally?
Illegally, with no green card.
Of course, which would have been... What time was this? When was this?
We only came home there in November.
November, all right, so it's quite recently.
Yeah, very recently.
What brought you home?
Well, it's getting much harder now to survive in New York without a green card. And
I would say nearly impossible under the Homeland
virtually
Security
impossible.
thing, yeah.
Absolutely. It's hard to travel on trains, planes, anything like that. The local police now have the authority to pull you over, and if you don't have a social security number, they can actually arrest you and detain you and hand you over to immigration. So it was getting very tight.
And in fact, you could spend quite a long period of time in jail, and in jail in New York is not a pleasant experience.
Absolutely not. You could be 6 to 12 months there before deportation if you're unlucky.
Now, coming home, because there's been a whole generation of people who've lived illegally in the United States and had very good lives up until recently. Leaving New York and coming back here, where did you come back to? Dublin or where?
No, Southern Ireland.
Southern Ireland, okay. Was it a good move? I know you'd no option in your own mind, but has it turned out to be a good move?
It's hard to say. We're still here, very fresh here. I'm finding it very, very hard to settle in. I miss my lifestyle over New York. We had a great lifestyle. Money was not a problem, even though we were illegal. We had a comfortable lifestyle. Like I said, we had 2 houses over there, brand new cars. I'm working 60 hours a week here. Over there, I left for work at 9 when my kids were gone to school or whatever, and gone to the babysitter. And I was home by 4 every day. I had 4 men working for me full time. And we had a very, very comfortable, relaxed lifestyle. We traveled a lot in the United States. We were able to treat the kids to a fantastic lifestyle, theme parks, movies, theatres, anything they wanted, even though they're young. They still enjoyed all these. And now we're home, we find you...
And what were you doing over there, Tom?
I was in construction in New York City.
Okay. And there's a lot of that going on at the moment. There's quite a lot of regeneration and new building going on.
There is.
Were you working down in the Mee Point district and down 5 Points and all around there? There's an awful lot of stuff going on there.
I worked all over Manhattan, all over the Bronx and Brooklyn. We had a large area to cover when we were doing the work. And we did a lot of interior work, refinishing interior work. So it was good work. The money was very good. The customers never worried if you were legal or illegal. Once you did the work properly, they were happy. It's just, we find it hard to settle in here. We find that we came home and I see less of people here than I did in New York. The Irish community in New York are very close. People think New Yorkers are snobbish and they're just worried about working. I had a fantastic lifestyle over there, as did a lot of my friends. We golfed twice a week during the week. We went out most weekends. We'd go out for a meal or every other weekend, and it wasn't like we were out drinking, boozing. I don't drink.
Where did you live, Tom? What part of New York did you live in?
We were in the Woodlawn area.
Yeah.
Which is a big Irish community. It's in the Bronx, Woodlawn in the Bronx.
And these are people who are very close. They have street parties and all sorts of stuff. You know, it's a fantastic part of the world. I know it well. And can you describe to us, Tom, what was the tipping point? What made you realise that I'm living on borrowed time here? I've got to get out.
Well, I was actually stopped and was about to be arrested for being illegal, and I had done a lot of work with the police department in New York City for 9/11.
Yeah.
And I had made some very good friends, and it was actually knowing these people and their influence that got me released without being deported or charged, and that gave me the opportunity to get out of there. Other than that, I would have been...
But that's all they could offer you, was just giving you the opportunity to get out.
It, absolutely. I mean,
But that must have been terrible.
It was frightening, yeah. I mean, I have personally met Mayor Giuliani and the governor and everything through meetings and stuff. And, you'd be surprised the people I've met, and none of them knew I was illegal. And it didn't matter to them. We were there doing a job. We got the job done. And
I suppose you took the odd pint down in John Fitzpatrick's.
We had a few there, all right. Not too many. I don't drink that much. Very, very seldom. So I'm one of the rare Irish guys.
So you were taken out. You were given the opportunity to get out of jail.
Well, I was never put in jail.
Well, you know what I mean. You were given the opportunity not to be detained.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all your friends could tell you was, that's all we can deliver to you. You better get out of here.
Oh yeah, they told me, like, listen, you can.
The game is up.
Yeah.
And did you try to apply for green card status?
Absolutely. Every year we applied everything we have. I have beautiful kids that are all American citizens. So they'd have to be 18 to claim me. We tried every lottery going. We tried through every channel we could over. I was very, very involved in the immigration department in New York with helping the Irish illegals that came over there. And even through my connections there, I could not secure a green card for myself.
God, why do you think that was, Tom?
They just don't care. They say, listen, we have a lottery, and that's how you get them. If you don't get them, you don't get them. You're not supposed to be here. They're not going to say, oh, you're a great guy, we really like you, here's a green card. That doesn't matter. Yeah. You got to realize, I mean, I'm
sure we have the same attitude here, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking dealing with millions of people from all over the world that want to get in there.
And the Irish continue to have this sentimental attitude towards themselves, that we built America, and that, for God's sake, what would you have done without us? But there's more Hispanics there than there are Irish now. So.
Absolutely, and it's a hard move back to Ireland.
So are you that disappointed? I mean, this fella Cahill has the opportunity to stay in Brisbane. He's got a good job out there. He's working on a big ESB project, earning plenty of money, great lifestyle. It's in the middle of summer. He's got a lovely girlfriend. Everything's looking rosy, but he wants to come back to the green fields of Ireland.
I'd say stay where he is. I'll be honest with you. I find it fun. Even when I come back now, I brought money home with me. I'm not going to lie to that. But it won't be enough to build my house and set me up where I could be comfortable.
And would you go back in a heartbeat to Manhattan?
If I had a green card tomorrow morning, I'd be in New York the day after.
God.
I would, yeah.
So you may not be a native New Yorker, but you're a New Yorker.
Yes. I love Ireland, and I dreamed of Ireland every day I was away, and don't get me wrong, my kids love the Irish music, and we played it in the house and everything. But I'm very disappointed. I came home, I find the middle class is gone. The people calling into the house in the evenings and saying hello, that's gone. Everybody's working their behinds off to make a living here, and you're either very wealthy here or you're surviving. There's no middle class. I can't see it. I see, you have a lot of people struggling, and then you have a lot of wealthy people. But the comfortable lifestyle that I knew when I left 11, 12 years ago is gone. The people just don't seem to be relaxed.
Well, I'm afraid, old son, you're right. You're dead right. Okay, Tom, I wish you the very best of luck for you and your family. It must be a terrible shock for your kids. What ages are they?
They range from 6 to 6 months.
6 to 6 months.
And the 6 and the 4-year-old constantly want to go back. They miss the comfort of their home. They want their own rooms again. They want to be able to go to Sesame Place and, all this. And they want to watch, it's just, they miss it a lot. Even though they like it here and they like being with their cousins and one of them has started school, they still miss it. They still miss it a lot.
Okay, Tom, thank you for that. Sorry for your trouble, as the man said.
Not a problem. It's my own decision, so I just got to live with it.
Good luck. Ian, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Welcome. Can you feed unpasteurised goat's milk to your child?
Yeah, we did.
You did?
Yeah, did. Yeah, as I saying to you yesterday, we lived on a commune at the time, so it's back in the 1990s, obviously. We're all grown up and got jobs by now. But we kept a herd of goats.
What sort of a commune was it, Ian?
Kind of New Age traveller one.
Did you have dreadlocks and...
I still do.
Good man. Excellent. I'm glad to see somebody's keeping the old ways going. So on this commune, obviously, you had a goat.
Oh, no, we had several.
Several?
Yeah, we had several, different types. They're pretty cool creatures when you get into them. Really nice milk. So I'm asthmatic, it's good for asthma as well. So, but anyway, milking them. Basically it's just about cleanliness.
It's hygiene in relation to the milking.
Yeah, basically you clean off the udders before you actually milk them.
And would you use soap? Being New Agers, you probably weren't too fond of soap.
Oh no, we were. We used soap. We had a tin bath.
So you'd clean the udders, right?
Clean the udders.
Clean your hands, of course, as well.
Obviously,
Make sure that the pail into which the milk was going was
stainless
clean.
steel, obviously.
Yeah.
And that has to be like really clean, so you clean that really, really well.
Okay.
Then, obviously, what you'd use also is you'd sieve the milk as it comes out. But before you even start milking into the bowl, you milk off the first few light squirts, because that's the bit that actually usually contains all the bacteria.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because obviously the teats, they have the opening at one end.
Oh, yes, and of course there's contact with the air, and God only knows what else as well.
So you milk that bit off first, and then away you milk. We use a strainer, obviously, to strain the milk, get any hairs or off the udders or anything like that.
Hairs.
Yeah, and then we just feed it.
The nether regions of the goat.
They're actually quite clean.
Waiter, there's a hair in my goat's milk. What did it taste like? Because I have tasted it once now. It was pasteurised goat's milk, I have to say. And
it was horrible.
it was pretty awful.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. A lot of it's what they graze on. You have to really, obviously, if you're feeding it to a child, especially an infant, you have to watch what they graze on. Also, if you're giving them any antibiotics or anything like that, they actually go, that's it, you can't feed the milk.
Now, and of course, they'll eat anything. Unlike cows, who will only graze on pasture land, goats will eat anything, including the wallpaper and the upholstery in your car and your pants.
Oh, everything.
They'd eat your underpants. I mean, they're very undiscerning, aren't they?
Yeah, we used to have endless meetings about goats on the commune.
Did you?
Making sure they didn't wander off and stuff like that.
And Ian, what was life like on the commune?
Very basic. It was good though. It was fun. Yeah.
And what brought you there?
Well, originally I'm from, I suppose, the last diaspora of New Age travellers from the early 90s, like Maggie, basically, the tourists getting back into power in England in the early 90s.
That sort of set you fellas on the road, didn't it?
Yeah, it was the Criminal Justice Act.
Yeah.
Basically you couldn't do anything over there. You still can't really, but,
Of course, I'm proud to have been part of bringing the case which changed the Vagrancy Act in Ireland, giving you the right to be a vagrant in your own country.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, I'm an artist. I mean, I've got a degree in fine art. I've always painted. And part of it was that I just needed a space I could actually paint freely.
And what did you live in the commune?
Well, it's a combination of benders. So, bender, I don't know whether you've seen them. They're made out of hazel or willow. You just hoop.
Oh, they're wattle huts, yeah.
Yeah.
Where you bend the hazel or the willow stick.
Tie them all in.
Yeah, and cover them, yeah.
With tarpaulin.
Yeah, migrant Indians use them a lot.
Yeah, and the original Irish travellers as well used them.
That's correct. They wouldn't have bothered using them now, I can tell you.
Oh, God, no. They have very nice caravans.
And was there free love?
No.
Ugh. What's the point of it then? Any communal living that I ever considered was based entirely on free love being available. So that's a great disappointment, I have to tell you.
Fine would be a chance.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, free love was invented by men in the 1960s as an attempt to have sex with women who thought it would be a good idea because they were being...
just been invented.
Yeah, women weren't that keen, I can assure you. But,
no, it's all about respect, isn't it?
Yeah, they went along with it for a while. Yeah. Now, why did you leave?
Well, it basically broke up. It's the usual thing. Any commune that you look at will always break up because one person wants to take it in a direction that everybody else doesn't want it to go in.
The old cult leader.
Yeah, troublemakers, whatever, So we just thought it was better to knock it on its head than allow it to go down that way.
And where do you live now?
I live kind of around Tullamore, on a farm, actually.
Excellent, good. Well, you keep it up. Yeah. Part of a dying breed there. We need fellas like you. All right, thanks for that a little bit of science there, Ian. Good morning to you.
Okay, bye.
There you go, that's Ian. Still got his dreadlocks from the days of the communal living, which is good, I think. You don't have to wash them or anything. Sure you don't. They're sort of self-cleaning, really, in a way. Now, this week, an estimated 60,000 people looking to further their education will complete their CAO forms for the February the 1st deadline. And once again, Guidance Counsellor Brian Mooney joins us to steer you and yours in the right direction. Good morning, welcome. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, Gerry.
A little late in the date, but heartfelt nonetheless. Last year, you wrote that the points race was over. Do you still believe a year on that that's the case?
I do believe the points race is over. What I mean by that is that if you go back 20 years, when 20% of any age group were going through to college, that's about equivalent to a race. You'll have a gold, a silver and a bronze. Nowadays, 60% of young people are going on to third level. And I would effectively say that anybody who's finishing school, doing the Leaving Cert or Leaving Cert applied this year, who wants to progress on can do so. There are thousands of places in PLC courses. There are thousands and tens of thousands of places in cert programs, ordinary degree programs, higher degree programs. Out of the 28,000 young men in Ireland of any particular age group, 8,000 are now going into apprenticeships. The problem is a shortage of students. And if you look at all the advertising on the radio and the television, they're all advertising frantically. So whatever your ability level, whatever stage you're at in terms of your own development, there is a place for you to progress, and you can take that progression, whether it would be starting at a cert program at level 6 or a level 8 program. And it is right and appropriate that you would move forward, because effectively, when you do, you are increasing your skills and talents the whole time, and therefore your employability and your income.
Now, not wishing for a moment to denigrate the cert courses, apprenticeships, diploma courses or whatever, there has been a proliferation of, courses that feature needlepoint and law.
Yes.
I mean, are these courses going to lead to careers?
Well,
I mean, it's all very fine to,
yes,
to be able to turn around and say, oh yeah, I'm studying law. But I mean, are they actually going to lead to careers? Comparing them, for instance, to the BA moderatorship that you'd get from Trinity or the degree that you get from UCD.
Yeah, this is a major issue, and I mean,
and I'm not being snobbish. By the way,
there was a very interesting article in the Sunday Times yesterday, which was actually talking about this very issue, about whether in fact university education is becoming devalued. But is it just by virtue of the fact of going to university and huge numbers of people going through the university? Does it actually add anything? And at the end of 3 years, and I think we have to be very careful here that going to college of itself is not going to get you a job. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you've got to sit down in front of an employer with a CV.
There's plenty of people serving burgers with humanities and arts degrees.
Absolutely. You have to sit down in front of an employer and you have to justify why you're the right person for this particular job. And this is becoming more and more important, because if you look at, say, for instance, what's happening over in UCD, where they have their Horizons program now, where you can actually select to a modularised system what you want to study, and you can do 2/3 of your study in one area and 1/3 and then vary it up and down. You need to look that at the end of the day you're going to end up with a degree that you want based on what you've selected, rather than in my day and your day where they told you what you did and you got your course at the end of it.
Where the professional bodies in fact dictated
everything. So if we become a consumer society in education where we just say, well, I'll have a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of the other, that's brilliant. But at the end of the day, your CV in front of the employer is what ultimately is going to get you the job. So you have to be very careful in selecting a course that it is actually going to give you the skills, whether they're technical skills or whether they're a range of self-management skills that will say to an employer, this is the person I want for this job.
Now, that leads us to the CAO, because the CAO will inform the kind of course and the institution that you're eventually going to end up in. And the same, while it is not as liberal as what you've just described, as the Horizons option, you can design, your future even at CAO level.
Well, one of the things that I'm a little bit critical of, and I've said it in some of the stuff I've been writing in the Irish Times the last couple of weeks, is you have basically 8 core areas that anybody can study, and any college in a sense could reduce their series of choices down to 8, and because there would be literally hundreds of places in all of those 8, the points wouldn't be particularly high. But if you hive off 2 subjects and call it a separate course, and you only have 10 places available on that course, it's inevitably going to come in around 500 and 560 points, and then everyone's going to say, God, that's a great course. And what you're actually doing is it's a scattergun effect. You're multiplying courses constantly. It's like taking one block of cheese and slicing off tiny little bits of it.
Have you examples of where that's happening?
It's happening in all the colleges. If you actually look at every single year, there are new courses coming on stream, which in many ways are simply tiny subdivisions of existing courses. But the thing I fear is the students who are attracted by that, it's a very high points. The only reason it's a high points, it's only 10 places on it. And they're actually ending up in a small cul-de-sac. Now, if that cul-de-sac is just right for you, great. But if it's not, you're sitting beside somebody in a lecture theatre who has the option to move this way, move that way, and you've gone in having chosen to do philosophy and sociology, and that's what you're with. And I think that, maybe this whole marketing-driven thing, which is what it is, in subdividing courses and making all these specialisations, maybe we should say to young people, look, if you're enjoying studying history and French or whatever, then an arts degree is where you should be going to. If it's your biology and your physics, it should be a chemistry degree. If it's maths and physics, then it should be engineering. If you're into medical stuff, well, then look at the medical, but also the paramedical and the nursing. Keep it simple, because ultimately for the first 3 years when you go into college nowadays, the whole undergraduate experience is to a large extent not vocational unless you're doing architecture or dentistry or something. It's really after that. And one of the fears I have is then you see what happened in Trinity with their drama course. One of the fears that I've had.
Actually, what did happen?
Well, do you know what I think's going on there, Gerry? Ultimately, I think this is all back to free fees. Ultimately, when you have a free fees system where the colleges are limited with the amount of money they have at undergraduate level, anything that's actually going to cost anything serious is going to get shoved up into master's level. You can see it both what happened with Trinity with drama, and you also see it in colleges where they're now bringing in 5-year programmes, 3-year undergraduate and 2-year masters, of which you pay the last 2 years, and watch, all the real cost elements will be in the last 2 years. And I think there's a real danger here that by, having committed ourselves where the state will pay for everybody, including the people driving in their BMWs or whatever they're driving into, as well as the people trying to come in from disadvantaged areas, the taxpayer isn't going to want to put a huge amount of money into that. And if the colleges are getting small amounts of money from, undergraduate programmes, that you basically will end up, as quoting from something that I was reading at the Times yesterday, with a reading list and a membership card to the library, you know what I mean? And that's dangerous, because ultimately at the end of the day, if we end up with a devalued undergraduate system where people are just generally, getting something, big lecture theatres, huge numbers of students, then I think there's a danger. I think we really have to ensure that the quality of our education system is maintained, and that when people go in and make choices in the CAO, that they're getting something that actually adds to their education, just doesn't take them off the street for 3 years.
Now, we'll get down to the nuts and bolts in a moment, and particularly for parents listening who may feel that their children, and I think that sometimes we often underestimate how on top they are of it. We'll get round to that, and if you fears about how your child is faring in terms of choice, we'll deal with that in a moment. And indeed, if you're not in school today, hopefully this will be of value to you as well. But let's just go back again to the whole issue of the points and the false impression that I believe is being given that, along with all these extra courses, these extra colleges, and the reduction in points and the increase of place, there's a temptation to believe, that's great. So now I don't have to have millions of points to become a doctor. Now I don't have to have millions of points to become an engineer. Now I don't have millions of points to become an architect or a lawyer. In fact, that's not the case.
That's not the case. You're absolutely right, Gerry. That isn't the case.
Nothing's changed there.
Nothing
except the gender divide has changed.
Yeah, the gender divide has changed in that most of the people who are getting 530, 540 points plus are female.
Yep.
And therefore, most of the students ending up in the high point faculties are female, and therefore all our dentists, our doctors, our veterinary surgeons, etc., will all be female in the future, which is a bit of a problem, because by the very nature of humanity, women more than men, maybe tend to lead more balanced lives and, take time off to rear their children, etc., which may create problems in terms of supply of these very important professions. But as you say, what has changed is that the education system at cert ordinary degree and higher degree at undergraduate level has expanded out hugely.
And it's being served well.
And it's being served well, as is the post-leaving cert sector, etc.
But in the major disciplines...
at the end of the day, there has been some easing. For instance, you saw in law last year, which it was all over 500 points. It's now dipped under 500, but it's dipped under 500 to 480, 485. It's still a very, very good leaving cert results. There has been an easing. But it certainly doesn't mean you can sit back on your butt and say, I'm not going to bother studying, that I'm just going to walk into these careers. Nothing much has really changed at that level.
1857 15922, and we're still sort of caught up with this, and I know why I'm attracted to it, because I do believe there's a bit of a smoke and mirrors thing happening particularly with the major disciplines and the professions. I was saying to you there during the break, Brand, that law's kind of, I thought, one of the few where you can maybe get into a course in one of the new institutions and then kind of side skate into law, and hopefully that course is recognised by the King's Inns.
If you have 300 points now and you want to do law, you can go to Portobello or Griffith College and you will get a qualification that will be acceptable for either King's Inns or for the Law Society. Fact, but you'll pay the fees for it. If you want to get into medicine or veterinary or dentistry or these, I was out in Budapest at Halloween.
Now, this is an interesting one.
Yeah, where effectively there are large numbers of Irish students, especially in the veterinary faculty, but building up in the medical faculty, etc., who are going out there paying the equivalent of $10,000 a year, which is what, about €7,500, and they are qualifying as vets and doctors, and they will be coming back here and they will be practicing because it is an EU country and the market is operating and they're earning what they consider to be good money, and we are getting courses for who we consider relatively
And what qualifications are they asking for in Budapest to get into the faculty?
Biology and chemistry, basically. Oral and written exams in the Hungarian embassy here in Dublin in May. And once you have a good leaving cert, reasonably good leaving cert, and you're strong in biology and chemistry, they'll say they're the subjects you need to be a good doctor or a good vet. Come ahead.
And when you say you need to have a reasonably good leaving cert, at the moment you need over 500 points.
They don't even look at the points. They're
not interested.
They're not interested. English, you can speak English, and you can pass a very rigorous exam in biology and chemistry. Away you go. That's it. And I mean, I was out there. I met with the veterinary students, the Irish veterinary students, and we were talking about the Irish abroad. I was inside there in their faculty. There were 24 of them inside in a room with me.
That's more than there are here in Ireland.
There were Munster jerseys, etc. And they were living in an Irish cocoon out there. It was at the time when there was some trouble about the 1956 revolution, etc. They were hardly aware it was going on. They were living together in flats. They were going to college. They were flying home every couple of weekends on cheap flights. And I was asking them about their interaction with Hungarian society, and it wasn't huge. And I was disappointed at that, because I thought if you're going to spend a couple of years abroad studying, at least you should get to know the city.
They're completely pragmatic.
Yeah, totally pragmatic.
They have found a route which features cash, money, checks, whatever, and they're taking it. And the qualification, is it a good qualification?
Yes, it is. And the bottom line is, if you want to be a vet and you can't get the points for veterinary here in Dublin, you can go to Budapest and become a vet in Budapest, and you can come back in the veterinary union and here fully recognise it. The same with the medical faculties out there. A doctor is a doctor. It's within the EU, recognised qualification. Medical Council will recognise it. People are being pragmatic. Students are doing what they have to do to get the qualifications they want. End of story.
Okay, and for those who can't get that together, because it does feature a lot of money, it's not only $10,000, it's also the money to survive and live. Yeah. In other words, it's like when I was going to college, you had to pay for everything.
Exactly.
Well, of course, I didn't. My father did. And I'm happy that he did too. At the moment, we are looking at a hugely expanded range of subjects and options and courses.
Yes.
Still acknowledging that the major disciplines are still a huge challenge.
Yes.
And the places are limited there for people who don't get very high points.
Yes, correct.
How has anything changed since last year in how you should approach your form?
Well, as I said, now it's virtually all online. 85% last year. I reckon it'll almost be universally online this year. I would say to any student who's still reflecting upon it in this last week, if you still haven't made your mind up, here's a simple bit of advice. Go on the Qualifax website. It's getting about 400,000 page hits every day at the moment, www.qualifax.ie. Put in the area of interest that you have. You'll get a complete list of courses at levels 6, 7 and 8. Look at them if you haven't already done this, and decide as of now what are the way that you want to list that. Which one would you really like most, and go on right down through your list and put them in on your CO application and get rid of it, because you will have up to the 1st of July to change your mind. In fact, there'll be about 10 days when your leaving cert is completely finished that you'll be able to change your mind. So if you're still agonising about it, get it done, get it in, get it finished, and get it in by Thursday, which is the final close-off date. One word of advice, very, very simply. The restricted application courses, that is the one in art and design, the one in music, the one in drama, and all of those courses which require portfolios, which require interviews, They cannot be entered onto your application after Thursday. If they're not in this Thursday, you cannot enter them in under change of mind. If you're even considering it, put them down now. You will be called to interview for March or your portfolio presentation in March or February or whenever it'll be. If you don't want to go, you don't have to go. But if it's not in now, you can't go. So most important, if there's any restricted courses in those kind of areas, they must be listed by Thursday. Otherwise, get it done, get it in, because you will have choices later on to vary it, change it, introduce new courses or whatever you want to do.
Now, year in, year out, you've said when you're making your choice, make it your wish list.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be 100% practical.
I've always said, look, every year I get calls from people who said, I really wanted to do this course, but I didn't think I was going to get the points. And I got more points than I was expecting. And the course came down. And I could have had it, but it's not on my list. For God's sake, will you put down number one, what you actually want? Now, the one prerequisite I would say is, don't put down something. If it says an entry requirement is having a C in chemistry and you're not doing chemistry, there's no point in listing it.
Yeah.
You know, only put down...
But that should be the only thing holding it back.
That should be the only thing holding it back. In other words, if you're doing the subjects that are the minimum entry requirements and you are doing that, put it down as number one. If you get it, brilliant. If you don't, you'll have your number two or your number three.
This is still an aspect of the application that a lot of people don't understand. If you don't get the points for the thing that you really have your heart set on, that doesn't matter because they go to the next
automatically.
choice.
It automatically goes to the second or the third or the fourth, right down to the 10th. So the thing that I must say, Gerry, is please use the total capacity of the application process. 10 courses on level 8, 10 courses on level 7-6. And I would say one other thing. Please don't be snobbish. And if you get your number 7 on level 8, which is a degree you don't really want, and you get your number 1 on level 6, which is the area you want, but it's not a level 8 course, please take the level 6 course, because what will happen is at the end of your 2-year cert, you get an option of doing a further year to get an ordinary degree. And at the end of the ordinary degree, you'll have 2 further years to get the level 8 course you wanted in the first place. So just because you don't want to say to your friends, I'm starting on 6, you end up with the same degree. So if it's the area you actually want to end up in, take it at the level you're offered it.
Now, you have outlined a selection of reasons why people make the wrong choice or the wrong decision. Inevitably, they're repeated year in, year out.
Oh yeah, people. My friend is going to Trinity. I want to be there with them.
Yeah, it looks like Brideshead Revisited. Gerry Ryan said it was great fun.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody recently who told me that their son is doing biblical studies in Trinity because it was the only course they had the points for that would get them into Trinity. And they wanted to go to Trinity.
Because he wanted to walk across Front Square.
Exactly. So he's doing biblical studies.
And drinking the buttery.
Exactly. And that's fine. He's doing biblical studies. But in other words, his motivation to study was the college he wanted to get into. Other motivation is my friends are going there. Or, because it's close to home or because it's cool or whatever. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you're going to feel very different 8-9 months from now. Because you'll be in a different environment and you'll ask yourself, why the hell did I make this choice? It should be based on where you think will give you the added skills, the added self-management skills, life management skills, and at the same time, if they're technical courses, the actual qualifications that'll get you a job.
A job at the end of the day.
Now,
I was on the cusp of making that particular mistake. I wanted to go to UCD to study law because all my friends were going there.
Yeah.
All my friends were going, not just into the law faculty, but into all the other faculties.
Yes.
And I went home and I said, look, I'm not going to Trinity. The other two options was the Royal College of Surgeons and Trinity. And my old man said to me, who's paying for this? And I said, well, you are. And he said, well, you're going to Trinity. He said, that's where I believe the qualification will be. Now, that may have been wrong.
Yes.
But what I'm getting at is I went to Trinity.
Yes.
I knew nobody.
Yes.
Within the space of a month, I had a fantastic social life.
That's the point.
And new friends.
Don't be fearful.
Didn't lose the old friends, but I had new friends.
Don't be afraid. Yeah. If you go to a new college, you, within a very short number of weeks, will have a whole series of new friends and you'll be in the right place for you. So make that choice and don't be fearful. And one thing I will say, stop agonising over this after next Thursday. Put it away, forget about it, because ultimately it's the number of points that you get will determine actually which courses you get. So your mocks are coming up in a few weeks' time. Get this thing over you. Make the choices, make sure if you are interested in restricted courses they're in, and put the application away and get on with your studies.
Now, something that we've never actually talked about before, but is increasingly, I think, becoming maybe worth considering, and that is not going directly into college after your leaving certificate.
Yeah, I mean,
how can you do that?
Well, there are a number of ways you can do it. You can apply to the CAO, you can get your course, and then you can write a nice little letter to the CAO or to the college itself directly saying, I would like a year off, and they will say yes. And you can then go away in the secure knowledge that you can do anything you want for 12 months. You can do Australia, you can do New Zealand, you can go and do a gap year, work for charity, do whatever you want. You apply to the CAO the following year, you list your one course, you put it in, that it's your deferred entry course, and it's yours. That's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is not to apply to the CAO at all, do your leaving cert, get your points, and decide to make your application next year and go away and do whatever you want to do. And there are people who are exercising options of actually going directly into employment or directly into training and are ending up with good careers. I mean, the Guards recruit. You have the cadetships. The financial services sector down in the Custom House docks are constantly looking for young, talented guys coming 18, 19 out of school with good mathematical skills.
Biotech.
Yeah.
IT.
Yeah, there are lots, and there are very good 1-year PLC courses, especially in the area of IT, that give very, very hands-on skills that allow people to go directly into these industries and then move up within them. So college is not the be-all and end-all. Yes, it's important, but it's not the be-all and end-all of life.
Okay, thank you for being with us, Brian. What can we expect in the paper tomorrow?
Tomorrow we'll be covering, this week we'll be doing law, we'll be doing communication journalism tomorrow, and we'll be doing law and psychology the following day, and then on Thursday I'll be explaining how you get money out of the system, and on Friday I'll be talking about the options we've just been talking about, which are opportunities outside the CAO completely.
Thank you very much, and it's good to have you back. Good morning.
Thank you.
Gerry